What is up, Film Geeks? My name is Trevor. Welcome back to my channel. We made it to the last day of the entire year. Happy New Year's Eve. But before we head into 2022, I gotta share with you guys my top 10 best movies of 2021, aka my top 10 favorite. Leave your top 10 favorite movies down below in the comment section. Our lists are going to be different, and that's a-okay here. And I'm also gonna give you guys 10 honorable mentions because I saw quite a bit of awesome movies this year. It's gonna be a very fun, very positive list. And with that said, let's get into our honorable mentions. I have 10. I'm just gonna name them off really quick, then we'll get into our list. So, first up for our honorable mentions, we have Our Friend, Dear Evan Hansen, Snyder Cut, Malignant, Don't Look Up, A Quiet Place Part 2, Wrath of Man, In the Heights, Raya and the Last Dragon, and Spiral. All those movies came so close to making this list, and those are all movies that I want to buy or own on Blu-ray, and I really want to rewatch. It's been a really good year for movies. Safe to say it's one of my favorite years ever for movies. With that said, let's hop into this list. Right at number 10, Ryan Reynolds' Free Guy. Talk about fun. That's exactly what this movie is. I just laughed. I had so much fun. I had a huge smile on my face. And Ryan Reynolds being Ryan Reynolds, I'm never going to get tired of it. He did 3 movies this year where he is himself in all 3 movies. And I could watch Ryan Reynolds be himself every single day of the week. The world building they do with the video game in this movie is absolutely fantastic, but the whole going from the video game back to real life and having 2 separate stories going on really keeps it interesting, on the edge of your seat. Taika Waititi's in there. He's a little bit unbearable, but I love Free Guy playing the character of Guy in this huge city, this huge world. It's hilarious, has some awesome cameos. I cannot recommend Free Guy enough. So DC had a pretty good year, and the Suicide Squad is a big part of that. I absolutely loved everything they did with the Suicide Squad, and we're getting a Peacemaker show, which I'm excited for, but I'm a little skeptical for. But the Suicide Squad, it really has that darker tone, but has that darker comedy, and really dives deep on what James Gunn really wanted to do with this film. It didn't seem like any studio was really interfering. It seemed like James Gunn got to make the movie he wanted to make, and he absolutely crushed it. At number 8 is going to be a Disney live-action remake, Cruella. I am a die-hard fan of this movie, and I'm a die-hard fan of Disney live-action remakes, and Emma Stone is a perfect casting as Cruella, but I love the whole tone of this film. It's from the director of I, Tonya, who has a darker tone with that film, and he brings that into this film. I love the color scheme, I love the fashion aspect, and I always say this movie reminds me of Birds of Prey on how it's told, and also The Devil Wears Prada. You put those two together, and that's what Cruella is. Exploring the world of Cruella in this origin villain story of who she is, why she became who she is, and she becomes like an anti-hero in this film because there's someone else inside the movie that you dislike more than Cruella. I thought it was really good. I thought it hit on all the right notes. I love the fashion aspect, I love the story, and I love the way there's a narrator telling it all. It worked on every level for me. At number 7, you could say the MCU had a pretty dang good year, and ShangChi and the Legend of the Ten Rings really adds to that good year. The MCU has some pretty dang good origin stories, and I just think ShangChi and the Legend of the Ten Rings is the best origin story of the bunch. The character of ShangChi is just so cool, and he feels like someone you want to be friends with, you want to go out and hang out, but he's also a badass, and I love the way they can tell a story in the present time and then do flashbacks for a little bit of an origin story where he came from. It's an origin story done right with the perfect amount of flashbacks. It doesn't spend too much time back there, it kind of jumps back and forth. Awkwafina's character of Katie is a very good sidekick. Diving deep into the mythology of the Legend of the Ten Rings and everything inside the film is what really makes it work so well. The second act might drag a little bit, and the third act might lose some people with how absurd it kind of goes with the ending, but I thought the villain was great. I thought it had some awesome cameos in there. I thought it set up a lot of awesome things for the future of the MCU. I love the Shang-Chi, and it's so much fun to watch, and I think it's safe to say it's the funniest MCU movie. Okay, number 6. You could say Andrew Garfield had a fantastic year for all the movies he did, but Tick, Tick, Boom is a different type of level of fantastic. So when I watched this for the first time, it wasn't really for me. I wasn't in the right mindset for it. When I gave back and rewatched it a couple weeks later, I fell in love with what Lin-Manuel Miranda did, and I fell in love with Andrew Garfield's performance as Jonathan Larson. And there isn't very often when you rewatch a movie that you end up loving it, and that's one of the cases with Tick, Tick, Boom. I love the musical numbers, I love the style, I love the character and the person of Jonathan Larson and his struggle, and it's really paying homage to everyone who has a dream to keep going. Never give up, chase your dreams, because you never know how close you are to diamonds. That's exactly what this movie does. Hits home on all those levels, brings an emotional punch towards the end of the film, and it makes you want to sing and dance. This is the life, boom, 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 boom. Breaking us into the top 5. If you're feeling down in the dumps, you gotta watch King Richard, because it's going to lift up your spirits. And Will Smith and Andrew Garfield for Tick, Tick, Boom are both kind of the front runners for the Oscar this year. And I don't know who to root for, but I absolutely loved King Richard and how it made me feel. It gave me goosebumps throughout. It made me inspired. It made me believe that if I put my mind to anything, I can go out and conquer whatever I want to conquer. That's what I think the objective of a inspirational sports movie is, and I think it nailed it on every aspect. And learning the story of Venus and Serena and where they're from and where they go and how their childhood was, it was awesome. It was beautiful. And Venus and Serena are producers on this film, so they really got to pay light and homage to their father who helped raise them and train them to be the tennis players they are. I had chills. I almost cried. It made me want to run through a brick wall. It got me inspired. King Richard and Tick Tick Booms, the two most inspiring movies of the entire year. Number 4, we're going from really inspiring to very brutal and dark, but brilliantly made, with Ridley Scott's The Last Duel. This isn't one you're going to want to watch with all your friends or really want to rewatch all that much, but it's made so beautifully with the way it's told with 3 different parts, all telling the same story, just slightly differently. I thought it was brilliant. I love the filmmaking. I love the cinematography. I love the performances. Everyone in this movie, from Ben Affleck, Matt Damon, Driver, and Jodie Comer, should all be able to get nominated for Oscars, how good they were. I think the only one that's guaranteed she should and will is Jodie Comer. It's such a brutal and tragic story that is just so creatively told that when I was watching it, I truly felt I was watching one of Ridley Scott's best movies. It really showed Ridley Scott still has that magic of a director inside of him with The Last Duel. I didn't see House of Gucci. I wanted to see The Last Duel so bad. It's been one of my most anticipated movies for a long time. And safe to say it delivered. Moving on to number 3, heading over to Netflix. My favorite Netflix movie of the entire year. It's a Western, The Harder They Fall. This is my favorite Western of all time. I've watched this movie 3 times now. And James Samuel does a great job because it has so many different tones and themes throughout it that it really just kind of is a sporadic Western movie. It has like a Fast and Furious soundtrack with a Quentin Tarantino style of telling. James Samuel's direction and his shot selection and the way the camera just pans around and does these long kind of zoom close-ups on Idris Elba's character or Jonathan Major's character, it just makes for this very investing, unique Western movie, and that's exactly what it is. It's one of the most unique movies I've seen this year. I love a good Western, and I love the characters in this, and it's arguably one of the funniest movies of the entire year. The Harder They Fall. I hope it gets a Criterion release. I hope it gets a Blu-ray release, 4K Steelbook, because I want it, and I need it. Only 2 movies left. What are they going to be? At number 2 is Dune, and I almost put this at number 1, and I still think this might switch come in a couple weeks when I rewatch both these number 2 and number 1 movies. But Dune did something for me that a lot of movies don't do. When I walked out of the theater, I couldn't stop smiling and laughing, and I was a goofy little kid all over again. And I literally said to myself, I love movies, and that's what Dune did for me. And it was such an experience, and I ended up watching it again at home that night on HBO Max. And it was just that experience all over again. And everyone I recommended this movie to absolutely loved it. And I know some people were kind of upset that it's just a big setup for part 2. I think part 2 has potential to be even better than part 1. But I'm a sucker for a good setup. And I think the performances and the setup in this movie is fantastic. But you gotta talk about Denis Villeneuve's direction, because the scope and the epicness of this movie, it's epic. The epicness is epic. That's how you know it's an epic movie. Everything more about this worked on every level. I want to read the book just to see how close they were, because I feel like they jammed a lot of stuff in there, a lot of Dune mythology in this 2.5-hour runtime. Dune did something for me that a lot of movies don't do, except for number 1, going to be Spider-Man No Way Home. How are you not excited about this? And there's going to be spoilers for No Way Home if you have not seen it, but the 3 Spider-Man on screen at the same time, my entire life, my entire childhood, by default puts this movie at number 1. I've seen this movie 3 times, and on the 3rd time, the first 45 minutes to an hour is a little bit slower. It takes a little bit of time to get into, but that last hour and a half is Marvel magic. It is Spider-Man magic. It is just movie magic, and I am trying to petition this movie to get nominated for Best Picture just because of how it made me feel. I've seen quite a bit of movies, and I've seen a lot of movies that are going to get nominated for these awards, but none of them really did what No Way Home did for me. It made me feel like a kid. It let me escape from the world. It brought out every emotion. I laughed, I cried, I got angry, and it has arguably the best villain now inside the MCU with Green Goblin, and all these villains from the other movies culminated in this film. I mean, you have my life, my entire childhood, Toby, Andrew, Tom Holland, all on the screen together at the same time. I cannot iterate enough how much I wish I could watch this for the first time again with that awesome theater. It was the best theater experience I ever had. It hit me in every way that I wanted to. Spider-Man No Way Home is my favorite movie of 2021. That's going to do it for my last video of the year. It is pretty crazy. Come back tomorrow, the new year, with about 2 to 3 more videos, a 2021 movie ranking, 2022 anticipated, and a Peacemaker trailer reaction, all that and much more. Let me know your top 10 favorite movies down below in the comment section of 2021. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hit the thumbs up button, hit that subscribe button. I'll see you guys next time.